everyone, it's your favorite Black single mother here, Samantha the Millennial Introvert, and today we're going to talk about basically what is a horror story of a man who unalived his entire family over a basic dispute. Let's get right into the details. So Roger Hanks kills Emily Hanks and Judith Hanks. So while it started as a dispute over dinner, ended in horror for one Pennsylvania family who appeared to lead an otherwise charming life on social media. Roger Lee Hanks has been charged with 2 counts of felony homicide and other murder charges after killing his wife Judith and daughter. His wife Judith, 75 years old, and daughter Emily, age 37, over a basic dispute at the dinner table on Thursday, April 25th, as previously reported by Daily Voice. Judith's Instagram page portrays a very different life from the events that unfolded in their East Marlboro Township home on Thursday evening, April 25th. With lipstick on her lips or a glass of wine in hand in every photo, Judith appears relaxed. She poses with Emily, her Boston Terrier Maxwell, and her husband, who has ties to Virginia. Broadway shows, morning strolls at nature preserves, and trips to lakes in Michigan were a regular part of the Hanks' blissful life. "Taking my man out for Father's Day," Judy captioned one selfie with Roger, shared nearly 8 years ago. "Lovely way to spend a fall morning." She captured a collage with the whole family at a walk through a nature preserve. The last time Judith shared a snippet of life was in September 2021, honoring her quote-unquote favorite daughter Emily. Records show Emily was living in Chicago and, according to LinkedIn, was working as a consulting director in risk management for an insurance company. On Thursday evening, following a 911 call to the shooting, troopers were sent to the family's home in the 200 block of Wilshire Drive, where they found Emily and Judith unresponsive with gunshot wounds, as previously reported by Daily Voice. During an interview with detectives, Roger said Judy had started the argument by saying, "He doesn't do anything, just sits in the chair," according to the affidavit for probable cause. During dinner, Judy had complained that Roger wasn't eating his food. That's when he threatened to shoot her and eventually did, with the gun he claimed he did not know was loaded, as explained in the affidavit. I call bull crap on that, but let's keep going. That's when Emily went into a rage, and Roger says he realized what he'd done, and so he shot her too, according to the affidavit. Hanks called someone telling them he went crazy and killed his wife and daughter, and that's who ended up calling 911, as stated in the affidavit. Hanks was found in the home's garage when police arrived, as Daily Voice initially reported. His preliminary arraignment was on Friday. Okay, I think they meant arraignment. The spelling errors. His preliminary arraignment was on Friday, April 26, where he was denied bail per state law on the charges, as detailed in his court docket. He had been held in the Chester County Prison. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for May 8, 2024. So once more, we have another family that is showing that they have this quote-unquote perfect life and perfect marriage and perfect nuclear family. And things are not as perfect as they seem behind closed doors. And I think after this, a lot of people are going to stop posting so much about their families and flexing their struggle marriages, because no marriage is perfect. Everyone knows that. And so why people try to act like marriage is the end all or that is so perfect, I have no clue. This man, I don't know what to even say. I am speechless. You see this a lot in the news, and I never can find a reason or hear of a reason that makes any sense why a father will unalive his entire family. And I thought that usually when they do this, they unalive themselves as well, but he didn't unalive himself. He just seemed like he was basically sick of his family and unalived them, and that was that. So now he has to live the rest of his little bit of life, because I think he's in his late 70s, thinking about what he did to his wife and daughter. So, being a single mom is not feeling so bad after all, because you have to know that like things like this, when they happen, they're usually not an isolated event. It's usually been some domestic violence has been happening, and behind closed doors. And this is just an escalation of what was already happening. So it just sounds like they were just arguing and picking at each other, and he probably seemed like he was fed up or something. I don't know. But this is why it's better to just be single. So Roger Lee Hanks has a long history with firearms, an Air Force veteran. Hanks served 2 tours in Vietnam and worked as a DuPont engineer before becoming a school teacher. I am the best, he said in an interview conducted by state troopers at Powley Hospital, where he was brought after being taken into custody in the garage of his home on Wilshire Drive. So he's telling the state troopers he's the best of the best. Okay, so this man sounds like he has lost his marbles. So apparently Roger Lee Hanks was born with a fishing rod and a gun in his hands. The 76-year-old, who state police alleged shot and killed his wife and daughter in his East Marlboro home on Thursday, declared he was familiar with gunsmithing, owned several firearms, hunted at the Bear Lodge Resort in rural Wyoming, and had even made his own ammunition. So here they said that they found the mother and daughter unresponsive with gunshot wounds, but rescue efforts failed and they were pronounced dead at the scene, according to the DA. Judith and Emily were both shot in the chest in the family's kitchen, as detailed in the affidavit. The trouble supposedly began after the parents had picked Emily up from the hospital, and the trio had a minor disagreement on the way home. As explained in the affidavit, citing Hanks and a family member he called after the shooting. Then, during dinner, the women were eating, but Hanks refused to eat. He had also left his Smith & Wesson 2.0 9mm on the table after cleaning it earlier in the day. So when his wife asked him to eat, he said, "If you keep this up, this thing is going off on you." Next, he threatened to put a plug in her. He pointed the gun at her and pulled the trigger, claiming he thought he left the gun unloaded, as detailed in the affidavit. When Judith collapsed, Emily went into a rage, her dad told the police, according to the affidavit. But she came at him with vengeance, and he was still holding the gun, so he proceeds to shoot Emily Hanks, too, the police citing the interview. During the interview, Hanks said he was born with a fishing rod and a gun in his hand, and that "I am one of the best," when talking to police about his shooting abilities, according to the affidavit. Hanks was found in the home's garage and was arrested on the following charges. Court records show. So it's felony criminal 2 counts, homicide 1, murder of the first degree 2 counts, felony murder of the third degree, felony discharge of a firearm into an occupied structure 2 counts, and a misdemeanor possession of a weapon. His preliminary arraignment was held before Magisterial District Judge Albert Michael Iakaka at 12:30 p.m. on Friday, April 26, according to his court docket. He was denied bail per state law on the charges and has been held in the Chester County Prison. His preliminary hearing is scheduled before Judge Iakaka at 9 a.m. on May 8, 2024. Chief Deputy District Attorney Michelle Fry is the assigned prosecutor, according to the DA's office. District Attorney Christopher L. De Barrena-Sarope said the defendant senselessly shot and killed his family because of a basic dispute. It is unfathomable that anyone would react this way. I want to thank the Pennsylvania State Police, who acted quickly and arrested the defendant after being dispatched to the scene. Anyone with information about this double deadly shooting is asked to contact the Pennsylvania State Police, Avondale, at 610-268-2022. All right. Well, there you go. Okay. So there's just a few more details of this horrific crime. While it is sad, these people were killed. They look like they were living a pretty nice life, the American dream, so to speak. But as they say, you never know what goes on behind closed doors, and all that glitters isn't gold. So once more, you have this family that appear to have it all on social media, and behind closed doors, it seemed to be a horror show. I cannot imagine what could trigger a husband and father to unalive his family over a basic dispute. It seemed like he just really did not like them for something as simple as a dispute to take him to that place. I looked at some of the pictures online as well on the Instagram. Per the article, I went to Judith's Instagram to see what her pictures did give off, and it did give off that she was living a nice life. One thing I noticed, she didn't have a lot of pictures with her husband. She had a few. She didn't post often. There were years in between the posts, so I don't know if she removed photos over time or what, because obviously I was not following her before the story came out. So I don't know if she removed photos over time or if she just didn't post that often on IG. But I noticed that she seemed to have way more pictures with others and just a few here and there of her husband. So pretty telling to me that, people do tend to show the most positive aspects of their lives on social media. So that's just something for everyone to remember before they are hashtag couples goals, hashtag marriage goals, hashtag relationship goals over someone else's, seemingly perfect life. And this is just another testament to why it's sometimes better to just be single. When you have I know people love to talk about a nuclear family or, you don't want to be a baby mama or whatever. But a lot of women are single mothers because they left an abusive relationship or an abusive marriage. It's just not worth it, ladies. So rest in peace to the victims. And I am hoping that we all learn a lesson from another cautionary tale of being in a marriage possibly too long or a relationship, when there's not love, when someone is talking to you in that way, and especially threatening to kill you and the gun's right there, I think it's time to get up from the table. And these are the types of marriages that people will be like, I was married 40 years or I've been married 30 years, and they're just like the worst marriages behind closed doors. And this is why I no longer am able to congratulate people when they shout that number out, because it could be a whole prison sentence. And it's like, what am I congratulating you for? It doesn't really make any sense, because why is you staying in a marriage for 100 years a good thing for me? Like, what does that have to do with anyone? Because we don't know what that really means. We don't know what really happened during that marriage. What's transpired? What kind of dysfunction did you raise with your kids, because your marriage was a struggle marriage behind closed doors? Like, I noticed with this story that the father said that when he killed his own wife, the daughter was raging. So she wasn't like, oh, I'm sad that dad killed mom, let me run over and check on mom. She seemed like she hated him. He seemed like he hated his wife and daughter. The wife and daughter probably hated him. It just seemed like there was a lot of resentment that had built up over time. And so the daughter's coming at him with a vengeance. These are his own words, with a vengeance. And it's like she's trying to attack her own father. It was a lot going on there. And so I'm like, how dysfunctional is this daughter that grew up in this dysfunctional family, this quote unquote nuclear family? And this is what single mothers are talking about when they say sometimes it's better to leave so that the children don't grow up in this dysfunction and it becomes like normal. And then when you think it's normal, you just pass it down to the next generation. What I noticed though was that their daughter, who was almost 40, didn't appear to have children, didn't appear to be married herself. So was that cycle of abuse that she maybe saw between her parents making her think, I don't want that? So I don't understand how that nuclear family raised something positive, because it essentially raised someone who was off relationships altogether, wasn't trying to have children, just seemed like she was just there with her dogs. And so the only thing that came out, I think that would have somewhat been positive, was that she was working a good job, which could happen for any child that's raised in America because we live in a capitalistic society. So most children are going to know, like probably in their toddler years, how important money is in this world, in this country, in this household. And so because of that, you're usually going to typically have children that are going to grow up and be wanting to make a lot of money. And if you have parents with half a brain who can raise kids to take school seriously and stay in school, get a good job, so on and so forth. If you have parents who can raise their kids to say, go to school, get a good job, so on and so forth, that's typically what the kid is going to do. Of course, you have those outliers, but you can have those outliers in any situation, whether it's a two-parent household or a single-parent household. And of course, the data would be skewed and say, oh, the majority kids that come from such and such. And it's like, yeah, because they're usually going to be black mothers because black males don't get married. So you're having kids with someone who detests marriage. And then you have all these other systematic issues that's attacking the black community as a whole with the racism, etc. And it's going to be a recipe for disaster. Of course, I don't really completely blame racism for a lot of things that happen in the black community, because I feel like just because things were happening, you didn't have to go down that road. So that's a whole other topic. But my point is that I see stories like this all the time where it is the quote unquote perfect family and someone is unaliving someone. So to pretend like just because it was a two-parent household, everybody's perfect and nobody's unaliving people or, going down the wrong path, versus when someone is raised by a single mother, now they're just a whole criminal and they're a nightmare. It's very disingenuous. It's not true. It doesn't make sense. It's not real. Like, case in point, my ex-husband, he was raised by two parents household. I was not. And we both are coming from a house of like four siblings each. Like, he has four siblings. I have four siblings. But our lives are almost the same, we both have an older sibling that our mothers gave up for adoption. We both are successful. We're pretty successful. And honestly, it's weird because him and I are like the middle child that was raised in the house. And then the oldest child is successful. The younger child is kind of doing things. So no one's in prison. Let's just put it that way. Like, our families are almost identical in the results. And one family was raised with two-parent household. The other one was raised with dad down the street. So it was a co-parenting situation. So I wasn't completely being raised without a father. So that's something else to consider, is that sometimes people are not married and they're actually either co-parenting or they are cohabiting, and they're not like officially married, but the father's still there. So the family is still intact for the most part. And sometimes that is a better, more healthy situation than trying to live in the same home. And people may say, oh, well, at least you have like a dual income. But if you don't need that, if your mother's having a good job where she's making good money, the father has one or two jobs and he's making good money, like, why does this matter? The kids are getting what they need. They're getting the food, the clothes, the lifestyle, middle class lifestyle, whatever. You don't need to both be in the house if mom and dad cannot get along. And so that's what this story really highlighted. And I'll keep bringing these stories to you all as I see them, because I see a lot of them where the father's just unaliving everyone. Sometimes it's the mom, taking out the dad. But either way, something is brought up to this point, and these are the stories that no one's talking about when they're trying to force this nuclear family, these long 20, 30 prison year sentences / marriages down your throat. You're just like, okay, what is really happening there? Because as a single mom, we all know why we left. It wasn't a fairy tale when we left. No woman is going to just leave a perfect relationship and be like, oh, it's perfect, let me just walk out and go struggle and be shamed into oblivion for being, because you can constantly hear women saying, I don't want to be a single mother. I don't want to be, because they know there's this stigma that's attached to it. So for women to walk away how bad was that relationship? And then to still have people stigmatizing being a single mom or quote unquote baby mama. And then on top of that, not really bringing up the father who helped you become a single mother, who's usually the reason why you are one because he couldn't act right during the whole relationship or slash marriage. It's just really telling, that we live in a patriarchal society and males are put on a pedestal and males rule, and we're in a male society, male centered world. So be careful, what you congratulate, because sometimes it could be congratulating complete destruction. I'm sure before this occurred, she was probably telling everyone, I've been married 40 years, and not knowing, because this can't have come out of nowhere. I mean, it seems like they picked at each other. The hatred was there. I mean, I can see it, and I don't know them from Adam, but what the heck? Like, what is going on there? And it's just like at some point it sounds like the father was just letting things build up. And for him to be the super big age of 76, it just seemed like he was really at this point where he had just had it, and I see this often with really older couples where it's like, I've been with you 40 years and I'm just sick of your mouth, And so that's why I say sometimes, I said this in another video, sometimes it's better to just leave while you all still kind of have some type of like for each other. I think I actually read somewhere too that these then they call them the silver marriages or the silver divorce or the gray divorces are on the rise, where people, and I've heard this a lot when I was growing up too, where people like usually will wait till the kids leave, or they're staying together for the kids. And then once the kids leave, they're like out of there, it's like, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen, and I still think this way sometimes, where it's like, how can you be married 20 something years and then get a divorce? I can't imagine struggling with someone that long, being miserable that long, just to, I guess, not be a quote unquote single mom, or to, I guess, raise a child in a quote unquote nuclear family household or whatever. But you really wonder, like, what did the kids endure, for parents to be trying to keep up this image, this American dream, this idealistic, view of what an American family should look like. What have the kids endured? Are the kids for the better, because mom and dad stay together? And I think that children, when they grow up, they'll typically say that they wanted their parents to be together, because I think they are also worried about that stigma. I don't think as a child, like, you're thinking about the income and the benefits of the data. You're more like, I don't want to be the one with divorced parents. So it's like, again, it's that shame, it's that stigma that really needs to end, that is making everyone sit in crap, sit in a household where everyone's miserable, behind closed doors. And so I'm going to keep highlighting these types of families to show, like, this is what's really happening behind closed doors. Like, this is what people want everyone to sit in, so that because nobody really talks about this. Nobody talks about how miserable being in a two-parent household can be. And they just have a fairy tale ideal. They have some data that they found that's been skewed to make it look like something. But of course, there's a lot of studies that show that children coming from co-parenting situations and in healthy single-parent households as well do just as well as kids coming from a two-parent household. All kids really need is love and a good education, and they'll be fine. And a lot of it depends on the child as well. So even being in a struggle marriage, being a single mom, whichever you're choosing, if the child wants to go off with the wrong crowd, then that's what they're doing. You don't really always have control over your own kid, and people will tell you that when it benefits them, like, oh, well, children will start listening to their peers at 8 years old. Like, suddenly everyone's a pediatrician and knows what kids are going to do in their lifetime. But when they want to blame parents, then it's like, oh, it's your fault. You have all the influence over your child. You did this. It's like, no, we all know that at some point, including the people that's running their mouths, that at some point we stop listening to our parents. We start listening to our peers more, and mom and dad are outdated and don't know anything about life suddenly, and we're going to make all these bad choices. And I was one of those kids, and because I have a self-awareness, I'm aware I was one of those crazy teenagers, and I know a lot of people who were, and kids are just going to test the boundaries, and then you're going to have the kids that's going to take it too far and just be wild and have no sense of like when to come back from the crazy. And then you're going to have other kids who are like, I don't want to ruin my future, so I'm going to get it together. So it doesn't really matter how the kids grew up, whether it was mom and dad there, not there. Yes, that plays a role in it, but it's not the end all. Like I know for me and my sister, like my biological dad was a whole deadbeat. He was married to my mother and he just disappeared, and he wasn't around. So I could have easily went off the rails. My sister could have went off the rails. We would have had every reason to go the wrong way in life, and we didn't, because we wanted better for ourselves. So it really comes down to the person themselves and making good decisions on a daily basis to not go down the wrong road and to give yourself a better life. So yeah, it's really up to the child. So putting that pressure on a single mom who already has enough on her plate is not smart for that child and for society, because that child's going to grow up and go into the world and you don't know where they're going to end up. So again, it does take a village, and that includes being a negative influence on that child. So yeah, let me know what you all think about this story. I think I'm literally just like speechless. I cannot even understand what would take you to that level. Because I knew when to leave a relationship. It's like, I'm sorry, if it's bad, I am not about to be sitting in crap just to look good to everyone else. I don't care enough about what people think to be in a bad relationship / marriage like that. And another thing is, I feel like people may think about, oh, the children were staying for the kids. But sometimes leaving is for the kids, because they're living in this toxic environment and it's just dangerous. Look what happened. The daughter's getting unalived with the mom because the dad was just sick of them. And you can really think like, how could this have changed? How could this story have been different if mom and dad got a divorce a lot earlier, and raised their daughter, co-parented? I was also wondering if the dad possibly had like a mistress, because I'm like, males only do stuff like this when they have someone else lined up. They think they can have better elsewhere. And it was weird because when the father got arrested, he seemed to be in a very talkative, upbeat mood with the officer. So it's like, it seems almost like he hates women, but when he's back around his brethren, he's just in good spirits. It was just the weirdest story to read. So let me know what you all think about this story. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Thank you to all my subscribers, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.